Justin Baldoni's battle with Blake Lively continues in the court as his legal team has now written a letter to the judge explaining why they need a subpoena from Marvel. Yes, the Marvel. We've also got a subpoena quash attempt by Marvel. How marvelous is their attempt? We'll have to see what the judge decides to do here. They don't want to reveal their secret sauce. It's like, hey, Marvel, you're not Coca-Cola. No one wants your recipe, right? What's the secret sauce? You get an A-lister, you put him in tights, make him a superhero, and don't have any good, solid plot lines, right? This isn't M. Night Shyamalan, okay? No one's seeing dead people out here. The only dead people we're seeing is the Deadpool character. You like what I did there? Which may have been defamatory towards Justin Baldoni. TMZ reported, cough it up, Marvel. Nice pools, very relevant. Now, I broke this down on the Morning Rush Hour podcast. This is more like the sort of graduate level where I'm going to read the entire or most of the documents. Now, Justin Baldoni wants Marvel to produce all relevant information around Nice Pool. We've already discussed this, but Nice Pool is a character Ryan Reynolds created that Baldoni believes is in his name and used to harass him and make fun of him. And while this wouldn't be enough of a threshold to prove defamation, it would show that there is this sort of sinister, dark cloud around Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds in their beef that they've got with Baldoni. So Baldoni argues, hey, before the movie came out, you were already writing scenes about me. How do I taste? You know what I mean? You've got me. You're consuming all of the Baldoni aura. So 2 different letters coming out right now. The first I'm going to share is what they said. Marvel, their legal team said to the judge as to why they want to quash the subpoena. That means quash, squash, get it out, right? They want that subpoena gone. They don't want to have to reveal any of this information, and you can't blame them. Any of these major companies with their legal teams, they never want to be involved. But is there a storyboard? Is there minutes logged from a meeting where Ryan Reynolds is talking about Baldoni? Is something revealed in that discovery that would point Baldoni's side closer to the truth about whatever smear campaign they had against him? After I read this, I'm going to share what Baldoni's side had to say in response. They kind of both sent their letters to the judge. It's kind of like when, as a kid, you ever get in a fight with your sibling and then you both run to dad at the same time. Dad, mom, come on. I don't know what that's like. I didn't have a dad growing up. But anyway, that's why you become a comedian. So yeah, why did you get into YouTube? Not having a father to hug me. All right. Was that too real? Okay. So it's all good. We've made it out alive. You don't always get the dad you want. Sometimes you have to be the dad you want, right, folks? Or mom, whatever. So these files, I got this one from Court Listener, but the second file I got from our pal Lauren over there, Court of Random Opinion. Did I pronounce that right? Court of Random Opinion. That's her watermark right there, which is great. She's been providing all of these documents free of charge to the subreddits. I think it's really great, so make sure you give her a subscribe. Dear Judge, again, this is from Marvel. The firm represents non-party Marvel Entertainment. We write pursuant to federal rules of Your Honor's individual practices. And then they talk about, why they don't want to be a part of this. The subpoena concerns the creation and development of one of the characters in Marvel's film, Deadpool and Wolverine. Marvel is aware that the Wayfair parties have served document requests for the same document from Reynolds. As discussed more fully below, the requested documents are proprietary and highly confidential, and their disclosure is likely to substantially harm Marvel. Furthermore, the documents are irrelevant to the claims in this case. The disclosure of these documents would be improper and inconsistent with the federal rules. So then they get into what is Deadpool. It's a character. They create all these other characters. Kid Pool, Head Pool, Nice Pool. Should we make a Dave Pool? Can we get a Dave Pool character? And it's like Deadpool, but as a podcaster. Can we do that? Somebody use your AI and tag me in it. Give me Dave Pool. It's just like Deadpool with a microphone. The subpoena and document requests. So Yeah, and look, you can understand Baldoni by saying, we want all the documents related to Deadpool. It's like, all right, well, calm down. And also, like, what documents are there? Is it a fishing expedition? They don't know exactly what they're looking for. On a motion to quash, the party issuing the subpoena must demonstrate that the information sought is relevant and material. So then they argue it's not relevant because it's, we're entitled to have an opinion or a point of view of what Nice Pool is. And even if it was making fun of Baldoni, it's irrelevant because, we're allowed to do that. It's kind of what they're saying here. And Baldoni will issue his response to that. They say down here, Nice Pool is a caricature and mocking portrayal based on Reynolds' perception of Baldoni, but identify no false statement of fact. Consequently, the portrayal of Nice Pool is not actionable as defamation. Based on the Wayfair Party's allegations, Nice Pool is clearly a joke and not grounded in any factual basis. Tellingly, in their opposition to Reynolds' motion to dismiss, while the Wayfair Party cite various allegations that purportedly support their defamation claim, they do not even mention Nice Pool. The requested documents are also immaterial. So what they're saying is, look, you guys know Nice Pool was a joke. So they're kind of admitting in part that, yeah, maybe it was about Baldoni. Which, by the way, the first time I saw this, I thought, no way did they write a character about Baldoni. Like, this is a stretch. And then when you actually go into the reading of Deadpool's character, Nice Pool, and him mentioning, his wife losing weight, the Blake Lively fat shaming reference, mentioning on-set intimacy coordinators, mentioning being a male feminist. When you see all of that put together, also the fact that they created this character late after kind of like the film was already kind of wrapped up, you realize, damn, looks like they did create Nice Pool to make fun of Baldoni. But what Baldoni's arguing is not necessarily that it's defamation, although maybe they made that accusation early on. But what they're arguing is it's part of showing malice for the greater opinion that they want to show the jury, which is like, oh, you think Baldoni's the bad guy? They were doing all these things about him, And I'm one of those types that it's like, look, if you're gonna have beef with somebody, say it out loud. You know what I mean? Like, air that out. Air that out publicly. Don't create some character and then, oh, well, the character wasn't necessarily about you. It's like, Ryan, grow a pair of dead balls and, publicly speak out. But the only time he's really spoken out about Baldoni is when he had to, and I believe his motion to dismiss or one of his court documents where he said, no, I do believe he's a predator. So the documents are proprietary and confidential. Their disclosure would harm Marvel. No, boo, rejected. The requested documents are particularly sensitive because they relate to the development of a character in an ongoing movie franchise. Marvel has built the success of the Marvel universe in large part by interconnecting storylines. Objection, Your Honor. There are no storylines in Marvel. No, okay, I don't want to get any of my nerds out there upset at me. Sure, there's storylines, whatever, okay, but, these aren't, this isn't To Kill a Mockingbird. This isn't a Scorsese level, story. Well, one guy has a superpower and they defeat the other guy, but at the very end, they almost lose, but they win in the end. Okay. Got it. The requested documents are not relevant to any claim in this case, and their disclosure would cause substantial harm to Marvel. And, Marvel, this is what they're supposed to do, right? They're supposed to make these arguments. But again, substantial. I think Marvel, how much is Marvel worth? Let's just see. I don't know. $53 billion! Marvel is worth 16% of Disney's market value. Okay. That's a lot of money. Do I have that right? Is that Marvel? That's insane. $54 billion. And they're worried that a little, revealing a couple storyboard images is going to hurt their proprietary blend of information. GTFO, Marvel. GTFO. All right, let's continue. Where was I? So they're saying, oh, it's going to harm us if we share that. And then they get into the different exhibits, which is the subpoenas and things like that. So in the exhibits, a lot of this is... stuff we don't have to share, just kind of defining who's who in this very complicated court mess. So they're saying, request was for all documents and communications, including but not limited to emails, texts, memos, and meeting notes concerning creation, development, modification, or portrayal of the character Nice Pool from Deadpool and Wolverine, whether exchanged internally among employees of you or externally with writers, directors, actors, or the third parties. So I think what they're looking for is Nicepool doesn't just walk onto set one day. He doesn't just walk onto set and say, all right, this is a new character I've created. No, there's going to be the design team. There's going to be hair and makeup, right? He's got a wig, the man bun. There's going to be all these different things. There's going to be inspirational images. So which inspirational images might have been used to create Nicepool? You could argue maybe they just showed a photo of Justin Baldoni and said, make me him, make me make fun of him. And then they had the writers and all that. And that would be documented. That would be in the books. So for Marvel to say, oh, this is harmful to future characters, don't they kill Nicepool? Doesn't he die right away? I don't know. I didn't watch the movie. Point being is, I don't think all of us that watch Marvel, I haven't seen one, I don't know, for those that do watch this, I prefer a good rom-com with Matthew McConaughey. Give me Matthew McConaughey with his shirt off or any Sydney Sweeney, Glenn Powell movie. That's what I want to watch, but everyone, can do what they want. I like How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. I want to see a guy just try to frost himself. That's what I want to see. None of this nonsense. I like anyway, you get the point. Fool's gold. Okay. Just keep giving me Kate Hudson and Matthew McConaughey. Why did they stop making films together? So what are we talking about here? So now we have the response by Justin Baldoni. And these letters to the judge don't necessarily, I believe that Baldoni wrote this having not seen yet what Marvel was going to say, but knowing they were going to try to quash. Dear Judge, as counsel for Wayfair Studios, Justin Baldoni, Jamie Heath, Steve Sarowitz, It Ends With Us, Melissa Nathan, Agency Group, Jennifer Abel, collectively, the Wayfarer parties. We oppose Marvel Entertainment's motion to quash the Wayfair party subpoenas and for protective order. Contrary to the representation, Marvel did not meet and confer with us in a good faith effort to resolve this dispute. On April 2nd, 2025, Marvel sent the Wayfair parties a letter containing its objections to the subpoena, which are the same objections set forth in its recent letter motion. On April 7th, 2025, my office met and conferred with Marvel's counsel via telephone about the objections, and although we attempted in good faith to address Marvel's purported concerns about confidentiality and relevancy, Marvel's counsel interrupted us, refused to engage in that discussion. Instead, Marvel's counsel interjected and stated he merely wanted to know what documents the Wayfair parties really needed, regardless of the subpoena's demand for all documents concerning the creation, development, modification, or portrayal of Ryan Reynolds' Nicepool character from Deadpool and Wolverine, and B, Justin Baldoni. For the sake of clarity, Nicepool is a defamatory and mocking portrayal of Baldoni, as alleged in the Wayfair party's pleading, and is used in the film Deadpool and Wolverine to mock events that allegedly took place between Baldoni and Lively on the set of the film It Ends With Us. Those same events that are the subject of this lawsuit. We responded that we wanted Marvel to search for and produce documents concerning Reynolds, a writer and star of the film, participation in the development of Nicepool, and the communications related to Baldoni, including the character's portrayal of Baldoni. Marvel's counsel agreed to discuss that limited subset of requested documents with Marvel, and the telephone call ended. However, the next communication that the Wayfair parties received from Marvel's counsel was an email stating that Marvel would be moving to quash the subpoena, and then its subsequent letter motion. Don't you hate that? Yeah. No. We'll talk to our bosses and we'll get right back to you. The next day, bling, 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 bling. Yeah, we're not doing any of that. No, we don't want anything there. And they'll say, oh, come on, just show us the book. Give us a couple emails. So Marvel is saying, we just want to know exactly what you want. And they're like, we want Nicepool from the beginning to end. They're like, are there notes where you drew the guy with the man bun? Show us this. We want to know how this character was created. Because what might exist is you might have Ryan Reynolds emailing the producer as they try to pitch Nicepool and say, I want this character to be a parody of Justin Baldoni because this dude's a creep, he's a predator, he did X, Y, and Z. They want to see what Reynolds is saying about him, before it got to the mock stage. And you know what? There might be no paper trail. But you would think if there is no paper trail, Marvel might be happy to share this. Because it appears to me that Baldoni's side is willing to address the confidentiality piece, right? They don't have to have, like, this can be redacted, right? This can be, one of those instances where the judge decides, all right, we're going to retract the proprietary blend of how they get Robert Downey Jr. into a spacesuit or whatever, and they can figure out the rest. Because it's like, I understand they don't want to reveal all of the makings of their, billion-dollar industry, but at the same time, they need to be held accountable. Marvel's motion should be denied for its failure to meaningfully meet and confer prior to seeking judicial intervention. Even worse, Marvel's motion neglects to advise the court of the Wayfair party's proposal to narrow the scope of the subpoena. All right, so Wayfair says, look, we obliged, narrowing the scope to this very specific nice pool of stuff we wanted, and they don't even mention that, right? We're trying to negotiate. We're trying to tango, Judge. We are trying to get our groove on here, but they're not letting us. They're not even letting us dance. Instead, Marvel inaccurately represents to the court that the Wayfair parties are seeking all documents about a character in a major film and all documents concerning an actor. Rule 26B provides that parties may obtain discovery regarding any non-privileged matter that is relevant to any party's claims or defense and proportional to the needs of the case, considering whether the burden or expense of the proposed discovery outweighs its likely benefit. The scope of relevancy is broad. So then they talk into all the specifics. Marvel contends that the documents concerning Nicepool are irrelevant because, according to Marvel, the character is purportedly an expression of an opinion and not one of fact. To begin with, whether Nicepool is an expression of opinion or not, while perhaps relevant on a motion for summary judgment, is entirely irrelevant to determining the propriety of the Wayfair party subpoena. Indeed, even if the Nicepool character were found to be an expression of pure opinion and therefore inactionable in its own right, information concerning Nicepool and communications exchange in relation thereto would still clearly be relevant to, among other things, the question of Reynolds' alleged malice. That is especially true given that on a big-budget superhero movie, Reynolds insisted on the ill-fitting and belated addition of Nicepool to the script during the period at issue during this litigation, and in fact credited it in the film It Ends With Us. Importantly, the information sought could establish malice not only in connection with this portrayal, but also in connection with other defamatory statements Reynolds made at or about the same time, over the same events that caused the Wayfair parties substantial harm. And Marvel's argument does not apply to the request for information concerning Baldoni. Even if it were appropriate to consider Marvel's position as to whether the character is an expression of opinion, under California law, a statement of opinion is actionable if implicitly based on undisclosed facts. The court applies a totality of the circumstances test in which the court reviews the language and sentiment in the context in which the statements were made. So they talk about the law there. Marvel... grounded in factual basis was decided after limited discovery of the issues raised in the motion for summary judgment, see Moore v. Cohen. So the idea that, you can't really decide what's grounded in a factual basis until after that discovery comes out. Like, let us see the math. Marvel further argues that the Wayfair parties have other, less burdensome means through which they can obtain relevant documents, if any exist, from the parties in the action, such as a request for admission or a party deposition. First, Marvel does not explain how the subpoena is unduly burdensome, especially given the Wayfair parties' agreement to narrow the scope thereof. And Marvel does not claim it will incur significant expense to locate and produce the documents. Second, compliance with the subpoena may moot the need for further discovery concerning Nicepool. Thirdly, the suggestion by Marvel that the Wayfair parties should obtain documents and information concerning Nicepool from the parties here too, including from Ryan Reynolds himself, is insincere because Marvel also seeks a protective order prohibiting the disclosure of Marvel's confidential documents by any party or other non-party in the action. Marvel does not merely seek that relief in the alternative to quashing the subpoena. Thus, Marvel simultaneously contends that 1, the Wayfair parties should seek Nicepool documents from the parties here too, and 2, the court should not permit any party or non-party to disclose Marvel's documents. Marvel further argues that the Nicepool documents are particularly sensitive because they relate to the development of a character in an ongoing movie franchise. Yet, as Marvel itself recognizes, this court has entered a protective order that provides for ample protection of any proprietary information. All right, so Baldoni's saying, we already have a protective order, so you can use it here. So don't use that excuse. Marvel notes that whether and how unspecified storylines, plots, and characters will appear in upcoming unreleased projects is the subject of much public interest, and this information is closely guarded by Marvel. However, this subpoena only seeks documents concerning Nightpool from one movie that has already been released, Deadpool and Wolverine. In fact, the character does not appear in any other film in Marvel's franchise and will not appear in any future films since it was killed in its first appearance. Spoiler alert! Nightpool's dead! Hey, but maybe Nicepool comes back. They do the Sixth Sense version, right? They do get M. Night Shyamalan to become a writer, and then they make Sixth Sense. But guess what? Bruce Willis, played by Ryan Reynolds, is actually I See Dead People Pool, right? He comes back from the dead. Nobody knows it. The kid who plays Bruce Willis's, that little kid where he's getting drunk on a ski slope. It's a whole nother story. It's just drunk pool. They have drunk pool, if you didn't know. Okay. Lastly, Marvel requests in the alternative to the primary relief sought that the court stay discovery. Where did I end up? Hold on a second. I lost. We say he was killed, right? So there it is. Importantly, the case cited by Marvel purported to establish that movie scripts constitute confidential information, involve scripts for unreleased films, which in that case were subject to a preliminary injunction with other proprietary materials such as budgets and medical forms, solely to prevent their improper use by a former employee who had stolen company documents for personal gain. Lastly, Marvel requests in the alternative to the primary relief sought that the court stay discovery from Marvel pending a determination of Ryan Reynolds' motion to dismiss. However, Reynolds himself has neither sought nor obtained a stay of discovery in connection with his dismissal motion. Additionally, and as detailed in the Wayfair Party's opposition to Reynolds' motion, there are not substantial grounds for dismissal of the claims against him, and in the unlikely event claims against Reynolds are dismissed with prejudice, the information sought in the subpoenas remains relevant as the suit against Lively, as the Wayfair Parties contend Reynolds was acting as the agent of Lively. So Baldoni's legal team, by believing that Reynolds was operating as Lively's agent. Now, there might not be contract signed as him being her agent, but if he's negotiating and talking to WME about Lively, they're arguing, well, he's acting as her agent, and therefore, even if his motions to dismiss, as long as ours with Blake Lively is active, he gets brought into this. I mean, talk about a legal orgy happening here. This is a legal gangbang. Gangbang pool. The Wayfair Parties, am I describing Deadpool right? I don't know. I haven't seen it. The Wayfair Parties have proposed in good faith and to avoid any undue burden upon Marvel to narrow the subpoena to documents concerning Reynolds' participation in the development of Nicepool and communications concerning Baldoni. Marvel will not be prejudiced if the court declines to stay compliance with the subpoena because the film has already been released and any non-public documents can be marked confidential pursuant to the protective order. We respectfully request the court deny Marvel's motion and compel Marvel to comply with the subpoena. All right, my question for you guys is, do you think the judge will agree with Baldoners, or do you think the judge will agree with Marvel? My personal belief, not being an expert, if you didn't know this, I'm not an expert. If you couldn't tell, I do have a gavel, so technically I am a judge in my own domicile. I become the judge, although my wife, let's be honest, she wears the pants in the relationship. I just wear the booty shorts. So she can take the gavel and tell me where to put it. The point being, though, is I believe, and maybe this is just my hopeful thinking, that the judge will deny Marvel's motion to quash and give us that Nicepool Bible. We want to see the Nicepool Bible. Open it up and show us what's in there. That's what I want. I want the truth to come out, right? We can handle the truth, I think. All right, well, truthfully, I appreciate you guys. If you haven't already, I want to remind you, 50% of our audience that watches our videos, out of 1.8 million views this month, we had 6 million 2 months ago, 1.8 million this month. 50% of you are not subscribed to my channel. Ticks, ticks, ticks. Now, that doesn't mean you aren't loyal and supporting, but you might not realize you're not subscribed. So do me a solid, double check, hit the subscribe button, like this content, and leave a nice comment, and it'll help the algorithm, and then we can make more videos, right? As the channel keeps growing, we keep hiring out new people. I got a social media person. You can check out the Rush Hour with Dave Neal on Instagram, D Neals on TikTok, and also D Neals on Instagram. And also Thursday at noon, I'll be going live for my midlife crisis live stream. I'm turning 40 on Thursday. I know I don't look a day over 39 and a half. I get it. You got to wear sunblock when you're got that Irish skin. But either way, you can't all look like Justin Baldoni, okay? All right, that's it for me. We'll be back this afternoon with The Rush. We'll see you then.